Women on Mission board members and their guests recently traveled to New York City at their own expense. They donned hard hats to tour the Capsis Corporation. Capsis builds prefabricated housing in their factory along the East River in Brooklyn. Women on Mission members took this journey for both information and inspiration. Capsis supplies housing for a new phase of the Nehemiah housing project in East Brooklyn. The modular homes are being built to supply affordable housing. Nehemiah grew out of a critical demand for housing back in the early 1980s. Through the efforts of many area churches, a project that has spanned 20 years has made homeowners of more than 2,700 families. During a luncheon near the Nehemiah site, Catholic Bishop Ernest White described neighborhood conditions when the project began.
Everything had become devastated and emptied, vacated, except our one building. And we had to fend off ourselves from fires, robberies, killings, the drug war, and so on. Everything went on. And we were at a point where I was told once that you have a very fine church, but you're on the wrong street. But I said to myself, by the persuasion of God, we're not on the wrong street. We're in the right place because it gives us an opportunity to do things that we would not have had an opportunity to do.
Bishop White and Lutheran pastor David Benke worked together as early as the late 1970s to begin the process of organizing a coalition of churches called East Brooklyn Congregations.
We also were getting picked off one by one.
That's true.
You'd be robbed, you'd be messed with all the time. Priests and pastors were shot. Women religious were always in a jam. So how do you confront that? And when we decided to start East Brooklyn Congregations back in 1978, formulating committee, we were involved at the very beginning of that to say that we're going to look at this as taking a biblical prophet who actually did this, rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem. And Brownsville had been called Little Jerusalem way back when because it was all Jewish in the day. And then that all vacated. So we said if we're going to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, we have to do it with a spear in one hand and a trowel in the other hand. The beautiful part of it was that when we had the productive meetings, I could discuss the Missouri Synod meeting, we could discuss the Roman Catholic meetings, we could discuss the funding meetings. All of a sudden our dream had some financial arm to it.
Yes.
We had a loan fund, we had a builder, we had land, and we had a deal with the city that the land would cost us this many dollars per square foot. So once we had the land for free, which was vacant, they had to tear down lots of parcels of messed up buildings. Then at the end of that, we were able to say we will build X amount of houses on that property.
And build they did. Through the efforts of the East Brooklyn congregations, they produced an entirely new neighborhood. Today, a new project is underway with an initial goal of 1,200 dwellings. Some will be single-family and some 2- and 3-family structures. But at the core of all is ownership. The new owner will live in the duplex or triplex and rent out the remaining space. Pastor Benke ended his comments with an encouraging note about the Women on Mission Giving Circle, St. John, and St. Louis Alderwoman Dion Flowers.
But to have a large congregation from a community say we sincerely are connected to our city, that when Jeremiah said seek the welfare of the city, that means people who live in its surroundings are also part of that. That to me is very impressive, and I'm extremely gratified to hear what you're doing there at St. John's and any place where there is such a giving circle that is hands-on. The second thing that I can't remember a time when we've had a coalition of people coming out that included a political person, and that doesn't happen. So Dion, for you to be here as an alderwoman is, to me, again, incredibly impressive. And it shows that,
I've been in my house already 24 years. I grew up in East New York and Brownsville, and that was my dream, to own a house, and I have 3 sons.
And I do enjoy my house. I love it. Some people think it's small, but I think it's just right for myself. I raised 2 children in the house. My daughter was born there. She's now in college, away at college. And I like the neighborhood. I never was, afraid of the neighborhood. I wanted to live there, even though I lived someplace in a different neighborhood before.
The work at College Hill is really only just beginning. There are many volunteers, great neighborhood leaders, and well thought out plans. Even though College Hill may never look like what is happening in this video, the neighborhood is already demonstrating the spirit of what it takes to become a St. Louis version of the East Brooklyn success. For more information about Women on Mission or Campaign for College Hill, visit womenonmissionstl.org.